Let's move on to 8-player football. We have one team remaining, and that's the Forest Park Trojans. Now, throughout the whole season, we were unsure of who was going to be the last team standing because, I mean, it was so up and down. We had so many teams, leading that conference and then kind of falling back, and then another team would kind of show up, and we would, kind of jump on that bandwagon a little bit.
It was exciting.
It was exciting. Now, I'm not going to lie. I didn't think Forest Park was going to be the final 8-man team, but it shouldn't surprise anybody. I mean, this is a powerhouse.
So we've watched Forest Park all season long. We know what they're capable of. But Portland is just as good of a team. They're sort of a smaller team. They seem to rely heavily on their energy and agility, their speed-making players. And what seems to stand out is they have a lot of guys that can put up points. Ned and Isaiah Smith, these two guys, they're brothers. And they seem to be like a dynamic duo for this team. But just as I said, they've got plenty of other options on their offense. Will Simon and Tanner Lawson. Lawson is their quarterback, and he seems to be that type of guy that you want under center. He's thrown over for more than 1,000 yards this season, 20 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. That's pretty impressive.
Earlier this week, I got a chance to catch up with Troy Margoni, the play-by-play announcer for Forest Park, and he talked a little bit about the Trojans. Joining me now is Troy Margoni, the play-by-play announcer for the Forest Park Trojans. Troy, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
Yeah. So the team, the Trojans, they've made a very good postseason run so far. What has been the success in your eyes to this run by the Trojans?
Well, the Trojans were dinged up early in the season. Obviously, Peter Ropiak missed the first 3 games of the season with a broken ankle, and he's definitely an important piece of what we want to do with our 1-2 punch at the running back position. Him and Connor Bordolini last game against Pickford, 36 carries for Ropiak, 181 yards. Bordolini, 32 carries for 183 yards. And it really starts with those 2 guys, and our team is finally healthy across the board. And, sometimes our offensive line gets a little bit overlooked. They've been playing really well. And we just like to put the ball on the ground, and 4 or 5 yards a pop has worked for us. We played a really good Pickford team last weekend. And for the final 7 minutes of the game, we're up 2. And we drive the length of the field and run the clock out. And it's probably a good thing because Pickford, if they get the ball back, we couldn't stop them.
Right, and you talk about that running game, but you think the game might be decided in the trenches, is that correct?
I do. I do think the line of scrimmage is going to be the difference, along with penalties and turnovers. Those are 2 key things for the Trojans. The Trojans aren't built for 2nd and 3rd and long. If you get a holding call on the Trojans where it puts them at a 2nd and 17 or a 1st and 15, that's not what the Trojans want to do. Their passing game, they have a little bit of a passing game, but they're not going to line up and spread you out and throw the ball all over the field. So if they can limit the mistakes on offense, and obviously anytime you have turnovers, that's going to shoot you in the foot a little bit. But the Trojans have done a good job, especially last week in Pickford, not turning the ball over in the conditions that were pretty nasty up in Pickford. 4 inches of snow on the ground, 8 degrees, and the Trojans didn't turn the ball over at all.
Right. This game, it's going to be played in Marquette at the Superior Dome, so the elements, they're not going to be an issue. Do you think that's an advantage or disadvantage for Forest Park?
I actually think that this is going to be an advantage for the Shamrocks compared to the Trojans. One thing that Forest Park football has been built on is kind of a running game between the tackles, just a ground and pound, 4 or 5 yards a carry. The elements really don't matter to the Trojans, but when you get in a situation where a team can throw the football, and I'm not sure what the Shamrocks do, I haven't watched a lot of film on them yet, but Trojan secondary for years has been their weakness. And when you can get in the Superior Dome, those elements of the wind, the snow, the rain, they're all taken out. So that can really benefit the Shamrock team. So on the flip side, the Trojans are going to have to adjust, probably blitz a lot, and hopefully create a few turnovers.
All right, Troy, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Jake.